Good evening, everyone. Sorry, a bit late tonight. I had a miss up going and picking up some takeaway. We're about to get going here. This is Alan, VK2MG, on behalf of the Central Coast Amateur Radio Club, with the weekly 2 metre net. Unfortunately, we are without Echolink again, and hopefully once things ease off, we may actually be able to do something about that. Let me just get my breath back. We normally run 2 rounds on the net. We do have a topic that I managed to think of one tonight. We've probably used it before, but oh well. Anybody wish to join us for a chat this evening? This is Alan, VK2MG.
Yeah, VK2MG, VK2FDWY. V2, November, Romeo Charlie.
VK2RAG, Summersby.
Acknowledging Dave, VK2FTWI, and Rob, VK2NRC. Anybody else out there tonight?
KC.
Acknowledging Steve to SKC. Anyone else?
Victor Kilo 2 November uniform.
Acknowledging David, VK2 November uniform. Okay, we've almost gone. We'll put one more call out there, and then we'll get going. Anyone else who wants to join in the first round? Silence being golden, and just adjusting my microphone here so I don't have to lean around to get the video stream. We are video streaming live as well. Good evening, Al Barton, for joining us, and he says hi to everybody on the net. So the topic that occurred to me on the way home, and I think we may have used this a year or so back, but let's see how we go. Tell us about your most unusual contact or other experience with amateur radio. And of course, how have you been and what have you been up to? Dave, you're up. VK2FDWI, VK2MG.
Okay, there was 2 actually. We can probably go back to the Sydney Tech College, and it was when I was doing electronic CEC back in the late 70s, and they had a amateur radio club in the building up in the radio room was up where the big ball is, where the Tap College is now, that big ball up on the roof. There was a radio room in under there, and some aerials up on the roof. And of course, on every Friday night, they'd have their HF net, and I was on HF, I think it was 80 metres, and we were chatting to someone around Australia or someone in Victoria. And at the time, I didn't keep records of who I was talking to. The other exciting thing was when I was in Belgium, a friend of mine, her uncle had his Belgium licence, and I used to listen to the HF side of things over there, and then one night one afternoon we fixed the aerial up. He said, right, there's the microphone, talk. So I made a contact with someone in York from, where was it? I mean Gant, I think we were in Gant, and there was someone over in York, and it was on 40 metres. So that was the 2 big highlights of HF experience and amateur radio experience. And both of them were unlicensed under supervision, but they were fun. VK2MG, VK2FDWY.
Yeah, VK2FDWI, VK2MG. Interesting. And yeah, I do have some memories of before I got licensed too, with going out with the club and stuff like that. With because I was with Westlake Sen, because that's where I was living. We did some things there I might go into as well later. And also, Dave, how have you been and what have you been up to? VK2FDWI, VK2MG.
Yeah, I've sorted out the problem on the computer with its weird and wonderful things that were happening. Being a they've been busy doing a heap of thing on Logic Pro. But yesterday morning on 88441, there was a whole good Chinese conversation going on at about strength 5, strength 4, between 3 different voice idents for approximately half an hour. So I don't know what they were doing, who they were, but there was something about it was made. The comment was made that it's aeronautical use of Australia Aviation Channel. So I don't know if it was someone just decided to come down and get on the air, and someone in Chinese got on the air and told them. But yeah, they had been a good old QSO in Chinese. That was would have been what 8 or 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock yesterday morning. So, but apart from that, HF's gone very, very quiet. VK2MG, VK2FDWY.
Yeah, I hear you about HF going quiet. I've been having fun and games trying to actually picture it up as he heads north through Queensland, and fighting the noise has been really, really kind of tough. I think I gave him a 3-1 at some point. I could just get him about the noise, and he came up just long enough for me to hear his RST. So HF's not been great this week. Okay, and interesting about that conversation. I hope they got told and got off there and let traffic continue. Moving on, Rob, how have you been, buddy? What you been up to, and unusual contacts or other experiences with amateur radio? VK2 NRC, VK2MG.
in the group, VK2 NRC. Unusual things. Sort of, mine was also prior to being licensed. I used to work on a few different cruise ships, but on this particular one, the radio officer was also a amateur, and I got on quite well with him. He only sort of trying to talk me into getting my ticket and all of that at that stage, and it was just the wrong time in my life to try and do anything like that. But yeah, so anyway, he had permission from the captain, sort of thing, that he could, when he wasn't working, and that was sort of after midnight, he could string other aerials up and play as long as he didn't cause any damage to the ship. So he was, pretty much had a free rein, and yeah, so I'd be up there with him listening to all different contacts he'd made, and he sort of got one there with a contact with Moscow. We were sort of probably about halfway between Guadalcanal and one of the Western Samoa, roughly, and one night, and with a English operator who wife was something to do with the diplomatic cause in Moscow, and he was allowed to play radios there because of the connection, but they didn't want to upset the diplomats of England. But yeah, it was about a 2 or 3 minute conversation I had with him, and it was sort of something I'd never ever dreamed of doing. So it was part of one of the things that I was already hooked on it. I just hadn't had the time to do anything about it, but that was certainly one that sticks in my mind. Anyway, put it back to you, VK2, VK2, NRC.
Yeah, VK2 NRC, VK2MG, fascinating. And trying to remember, I'm going to go back through my logs to see if I actually have ever spoken with anybody in Russia. I know I've gotten Russia on FT8, but doesn't really count as speaking to somebody, does it? And yeah, I've also known a ship's radio officer who was a ham as well. He's still around. He sometimes gets up on this repeater as well. He's well retired now as VK2MZ. And he had some. I recall some stories he had of getting his license. That was fun. How have you been, Rob? Too, and only been up to much. VK2NRC, VK2MG.
VK2MG, VK2NRC. Yeah. So we've got a couple of weeks off tape, but that's been basically had my head in the books for at least an hour or two each day, trying to get some of this information stuck into my brain. It's not working real well at the moment, but I'll just keep on trying. I found a little handy-dandy scanner, handheld scanner that I've been missing it for about, it was definitely over 5 years. And sorting through a couple of boxes the other day, and I showed up with that. And so anyway, I went and put it on the charger for a day, and came back to it, and nothing. And I thought, oh, maybe it's the battery that had it. I mean, it's a long time. Pulled them out, put the couple of just normal alkaline ones in, and pressed the button. And off it went, and I still had all the memories I'd had programmed into it, and that after 5 years. So I was really pleased with that, because I lost the record of what was in where a long time ago. But yeah, so it's sort of like coming across an old friend again. It used to go with me everywhere. In sort of pre-amateur license days, but yeah, so anyway, that sort of kept me busy this week with a few things around here, and yeah, haven't done a great deal on the air, but done a lot of getting things sorted and making up brackets and finding out what antennas I've got and what I haven't got. Anyway, put it back to you, VK2MG, VK2NRC.
VK2RAG, Summersby.
Yeah, VK2NRC, VK2MG, and the Weekly Nat. Excellent stuff there, Rob. And yeah, it's wonderful when something turns up like that after so long, and hey, it still works and it still remembers. It's great, isn't it? I've had that happen, and I had that happen with this. Well, I didn't so much remember as I had that happen with this nice little linear that I now take out with the portable stuff. I had completely forgotten that I'd had it up until about 2 years ago, and I must have had it for about 30 years. And turned it on, and it just worked. It was wonderful. I'll put that down to how well things were made back then, I guess. Okay, moving on. Steve, how have you been, buddy? What you been up to, and tell us about an unusual contact or another amateur radio experience. VK2 SKC, VK2MG.
VK2 SKC. Nothing that much. Been in the 1970s, I think it was. Round French placing, talking to a Russian bloke that ended up being an astronaut. Actually had a QSL card.
Nice.
Years ago. Over that, talked to America, England, all that. To this day, on 40 metres, which isn't too bad. VK2MG, VK2SKC.
Yeah, VK2 SKC, VK2MG. The DX does get fascinating, doesn't it? Because it's just you get to find out about about how they're living and what things are like somewhere else. And I know I've been complaining about 40 metres and HF this week, but overall things are getting better, aren't they? How have you been, VK2 SKC, VK2MG?
VK2SKC. Still doing fine, still working at the moment. They are talking about doing a 4-day week again this month, but we don't really know what's going to happen. Because we're down to circle staff anyway. And half the time we still get the orders that the thing is that they do that 4-day week with every those that are still working, and someone's putting an order out that day, when half the time we still get truck drivers doing the deliveries too, so they can't really do it. Because most truck drivers go for 5 days a week. They don't just go for 4 days a week or 2 days a week. VK2MG, VK2SKC.
Yeah, VK2SKC, VK2MG, still writing things down. Yeah, I know normally you talk about 4-day weeks and the like when you actually can get overlap and it's people all together. I think you're right. I'm not quite sure how that'd work with stuff like truck driving and the like. But I would hope that those in the appropriate pay grades have actually got an understanding of how things work. That's probably a bit optimistic, isn't it? Excuse me. Okay, moving on. We are powering through this tonight. We're at 8:21 and David, VK2NU. How have you been? What you been up to? And tell us about your most unusual contact or unusual experience with amateur radio. VK2NU, VK2MG.
VK2MG, VK2NU. Yeah, good evening, Alan. Nice to get on again. I'm currently on a couple of weeks holiday, sort of from work. We were supposed to be going up to Queensland for primarily for a wedding, but also for a bit of a holiday. But that's obviously been knocked on the head because of the whole COVID thing. But I thought I'd take the time off anyway because I hadn't had any time off for quite some time. So I've been using the time to potter on around the house and catch up with a few things that I wanted to do sort of radio-wise. So I've been trying a few new things. I've just quickly sort of scoured my electronic logbook. Probably the most two memorable contacts I've sort of ever had. Just having a look at my logbook here. Back in 2002, I was quite active on RTTY, and I was quite avid DXer at the time. And I remember putting out a CQ call on 15 metres, and I got answered actually by a station in North Korea.
Ooh.
Who was actually a guy Ham from Georgia who was working for one of the aid agencies over there. And I've actually got the contact confirmed. I've got a QSL card, and I think it was even approved by the ARRL for DXCC. So I've worked Korea, but sort of probably more unusual than that was the fact that he actually answered my CQ call on RTTY, which I would imagine not many people have done. But outside of that, probably one of my most memorable contacts ever. When I was a kid in the UK, when I first got into radio, I remember buying a book from a local amateur radio dealer by a guy called Les Moxon, call sign G6XN. He's a bit of an antenna guru, and I've probably had 3 or 4 copies of the book sort of throughout my life. I've sort of read it back to front in numerous times. I think it's one of the sort of Bibles when it comes to antenna building. And when I first got licensed, when I first came to Australia, I think the first contact I ever made back to the UK, the guy answered me call sign was Les Moxon G6XN, and we had a long talk about antennas, and that's probably the QSO that sticks out most there, Alan. Anyway, back to you, VK2MG, VK2NU.
Yeah, VK2NU, VK2MG. That is awesome, David. That's fantastic. Yeah, I think the closest I've come to something like that, well, two things, I guess. I started reading Peter Parker's books and actually have spoken to him a couple of times. But I hooked up, not on radio so much, more I hooked up on Twitter with a gentleman called Phil Kahn, KA9Q. And yeah, it's fascinating to see the stuff he's into now. He was one of the amateur radio IP pioneers, and has done a lot of stuff with weak signals work, and invented an awful lot of stuff that gets used in networking today a lot. But yeah, sorry to hear about the holiday getting knocked on the head, but yeah, you do need to take the time off, and I probably need to do something similar. But being a contractor, I don't get paid when I take time off, so I've just got to make sure I'm careful with my time, and I do get me time in there. Okay, and a RITI DX contact on 15 metres with North Korea. That's going to be really, really tough to beat, isn't it? And confirmed with a QSL card. Wow, I hope you've got that card protected and looked after. Okay, we are at the bottom of the list. Have got anybody else wishes to join us here before we head back up? This is Alan, VK2, Mike Golf, on behalf of the Central Coast Amateur Radio Club, running the weekly 2 metre net. Now, I did get a message saying that VK2 and MZ was going to join in there. I'm not sure if he's with us. Are you there yet, Brad? Could be a no. That would be a not as yet. So what we'll do is, before we head back to the top, just a quick run through through Facebook. Okay, we've had a few people check out. I mentioned Al Barton. We've got Benjamin Adams, VK2FAEA, Andrew Timmock from Sheffield, M3NRQ, and Ben saying he can just hear us from Botany on his handheld in the side flat. That's fantastic. And we have Mike Dundee, VK5ZMI from Adelaide. One more call out. Anybody else wish to join us before we head back up to the top?
Check in and say good evening, guys. Probably won't hang around too long, but good evening anyway. Good to hear you all.
Good to hear you, Oz. If you wanted to take it, we could put you up now. We're just talking about the most unusual contact or other experience inside amateur radio.
From America when I was working over there a few years ago, and I was talking all over the world from over there while I was driving a low loader and a grain truck all around the Texas, Oklahoma, and up as far as Nebraska, and it was quite amazing. The contacts were coming in from all around the world for about 2 months at one stage while I was there, and then all of a sudden the season changed and it all disappeared. But yeah, it was quite interesting to say the least, over.
Yeah, lovely. And yeah, 10, 11 metres, that stuff can be fantastic when we're at the right part of the sunspot cycle. I remember, this is going back a while, 40 years. And when I first got my license, 10 metres, we must have been at the top of the sunspot cycle, and little converted CB from the car was doing amazing things. I'm out here. Okay, I'm going to put one more call out before we head to the top. Anybody else wish to join us? Are you out there yet, Brad? Okay, whoever that was, we had carrier and no signal, so I'm not sure what's going on there. You want to try again? Nope. No, we'll head back up to the top and we'll try again when we get back down to the bottom again. Okay, heading back up. Dave, anything else you wish to add this evening, mate? VK2FDWI, VK2MG.
Yeah, about 2 weeks ago, or about 2 months ago, I got a little reminder, and then about 2 weeks ago, I got another bill reminder, and I'm thinking, yeah, okay, it'll last, and then in about 2 weeks, it has to be renewed. So tomorrow, the AMRAD license gets renewed, then there's the power bill, and then the power bill company, they've guesstimated, but they reckon they couldn't find the read the meters. Yeah, the guy came around, read everyone's meters, so either he didn't send them in or whatever, but anyway, so that's got to get paid, and then also the internet crowd's got to get their bill tomorrow, so it's going to be a busy day paying bills. But I got into the Logic bit, and I was going through some of the old 16th century, 1700s, 1600s music, and I've just put them under a simple thing, ABK1, ABK2, and ABK3 and 4 and so forth. And it's done for harpsichord, and I've got rid of all that crap. All I did was put in a the graphic equalizer, and on the output I put in a spreader and or limiter. Yeah, just an adapted limiter and a stereo spreader, and I seem to be getting a good, reasonably quality sound from that setup. So yeah, that's about the only thing I can add to tonight's excitement. So apart from that, VK2MG, VK2FDWI.
Yeah, VK2FDWI, VK2MG, and it is always fun to play with the music stuff, isn't it? And I got to say, I do love a lot of music from around there. I haven't listened to a lot of that recently, but I thoroughly enjoy it when I do. I mentioned last week I've been watching a Sky concert in that they did in Westminster Abbey, and it was absolutely lovely. And sorting through the old music and playing with your EQ and your compression and stuff like that. And then the sad part about all the bills hit at once, don't they? Okay. Well, stay well, Dave, and hear from you. We'll catch you next week. Moving on. Rob, anything else you wish to throw into the mix there tonight? VK2NRC, VK2MG.
VK2 NRC. Nothing real exciting. About the only thing exciting out of the ordinary today was we had a hazard reduction across the bay at La Perouse that managed to smoke us all out for some better part of the afternoon. But it was amazed how thick the smoke was at one stage, and it's good that they're getting it done this time of the year. It's a couple of months' time where it becomes a disaster waiting to happen. So, yeah, that was about my excitement for today, really. Anyway, thanks for running the net, and I don't know whether you want to do another round after this. But, yeah, I'll probably have a listen to Adrian at tomorrow. I think it's tomorrow night. So
Yes, it is.
someone might be able to let me know if that's correct. Anyway, we'll put it back to you, Alan. VK2MG, VK2NRC.
Yeah, VK2 NRC, VK2MG. Yes, I have been remiss. There's that I wanted to announce. Yes, that SSTV net is tomorrow night. And I also had a contact from Henrik. The club has been experimenting with WebSDR listening to 2 meters. It's currently set up at Henrik's place, but it is available on the net if anybody wants to have a play with it. It's at, let me get this right, websdr.ccarc.org.au. So websdr.ccarc.org.au. I had a bit of a play with it last night. He says he's still working on getting more features into it. I believe it's he's got a hat running on top of a Raspberry Pi 4. He's just trying to balance the number of users with the number of features and actually have it still run. So it's quite clean to listen to. It's up at his place in Carry-On at the moment, but once things ease off, it's destined for the Summersby site. Okay. Who's next? Steve. Anything else you wish to add tonight, mate? VK2SKC, VK2MG.
Just wondering, singing into music and all that, have you ever heard of a paniola?
Sorry, I haven't heard of a what? I didn't catch the word.
Paniola.
It's a word I feel like I know, but I can't actually place it, Steve. I feel like I have heard that word, but it's been a very long time.
Yeah, no, it's where you just put the music sheet
pianola, yes.
into it, and put the pedals and it plays itself.
Yes, click, yes, I do recall those, yes. And those are a fascinating bit of machinery too. If you ever have a look at one of those, they are amazing. And yeah, you see the old funny movies with the people pretending to play the things, and then standing up and it keeps going. Well, whoops, back onto it. Yeah, but yeah, I certainly remember the old pianolas. And yeah, of course we can do all that electronically now with MIDI and recording that way and things like that. And in many ways, recording MIDI is very much very similar to that. Your MIDI editors look very much like a pianola roll, but all electronic. Okay, moving on. And I've just had Brad message me back saying, yes, it was him trying to get in. His mic was playing up, so I'll call you in at the end again, Brad. David, anything else you wish to add in this evening? VK2NU, VK2MG.
Much more to add on. As I say, I've just been relaxing at home and sort of tinkling about. I've still been sort of playing quite a bit with digital voice modes this week. I think I've sort of got the D-Star thing, I think, sort of cracked, but I'm still scratching my head quite a bit with the DMR, so I've got a bit of work to do with that. Actually had a very nice contact on there yesterday with a guy who probably lived about 10 kilometres up the coast from my hometown in sort of England, and we had a good chat for sort of half an hour. Sort of made me quite homesick, sort of reminiscing there. But I'm sort of enjoying that, and basically just enjoying putting my feet up from work for a couple of weeks. I've still got best part of 2 weeks sort of left off, so I'm going to make the sort of best of it before I have to go back. Although I suppose under the current circumstances, I shouldn't be complaining too much about work when a lot of people would like to get back to work and probably don't have the opportunity to. But everything else is good here. Just sort of trying to keep busy and sort of doing a bit of sort of watching other kids at home as well, spending a bit of time with them. So back to you then, mate. VK2MG, VK2NU.
VK2RAG, Summersby.
Yeah, VK2NU, VK2MG, and the weekly Central Coast Amateur Radio Club net on 2 meters without Echo Link still. Hopefully we'll get it back one day soon once we come out of lockdowns. Good on keeping busy. It's important. And yeah, I can understand talking back to somebody close to your hometown. It's not just the areas; it's the accent is the wrong word, but see if I can get it. The word I'm after. No, it's gone. It's something more local than accents. When people speak, you get the feel of a place, don't you? Yeah. Okay, and I have just realised as we get to the bottom here, because was a high and by, I asked everybody else about their unusual contacts. I didn't say what mine was. A couple of years ago, I was activating a park in Tuggerah State Conservation, I think it was. One of the two Tuggerah parks. And set up 6 watts on 40 metres. And got a gentleman flying aeronautical mobile above Brisbane. And that was wonderful. That was amazing. And folks were talking about their experiences before they were licensed. I think some of mine would be the best memories for me is West Lakes used to run weekends up at the Bar Fire Tower. We'd go out and camp for the weekend and set the radios up, set up portable antennas, and run up in the Wattikins for the weekend. And that was always it was cold. It was very cold, but it was always a good weekend. Okay, we are at the bottom. Anybody else on Facebook? Not that I see. Everybody's commented already. I've mentioned everybody who's commented already. So we'll give you another go, Brad. Are you out there? VK2NMZ, VK2MG.
VK2MG, VK2NMZ. Good evening there, Alan. I'll just do a quick audio check just to make sure I'm not overdriving it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
You're there, mate. Nice and clear. In fact, if anything, you could probably use a tiny bit more, but you're perfectly audible.
Okay, I've just turned it up a little bit. Okay, VK2MG, VK2NMZ. Good evening there, Alan, and everybody else on time around. I'm actually talking to you from my laptop. The 705 is in the other room, and I'm coming in via remote control. And so I'm talking directly into an application on my computer, and that's passing the audio over via my home network to the radio sitting there hooked up to the charger and antenna. So that's really about my news. Looks like my audio is probably coming in a bit too hot, but anyway, I'll fix it up later. I think my most unique contact that I think I liked was on 20 metres to Valencia at Nora Head. I'd say that would be my favourite, and also one of the VK0 stations, Peter, I think his name was, out at Casey Island, I think it was, in the Antarctica. That would be my two most favourite ones as far as contacts go. Aside from that, just been off busy. Work out how it all works and understanding the quirks of it. I received a spider beam antenna last week, and so far all I've done with it is set it up in my front yard. That's about as much as I've done with it so far. Just working on setting things up, playing around with different antenna configurations. I've only had the 705 for the week. I've set an external antenna mount up on the bag, and I'm already looking at one of the little Comet external HF antennas. They do 2 metres out to 80 metres, but the problem is from a retailer in Sydney, they're $260, but I can get them for $160 on Amazon. So unsure what to do with that. I'm sure I'll work it out later. But mate, thank you for the net, and Bob had it for David. Bob mentioned the D-Star contact earlier on, and that you guys had a bit of a good chat. But your email or something, and I'm happy to give you a hand. I'll pass it back to you there, Alan. VK2MG, VK2NMZ.
Yeah, VK2NMZ, VK2MG. You've got a spider beam as well. I have to go and have a look at that. I believe the the Casey Station person you were talking to would have been VK0 Papa Delta, as I managed to get him to from Portable. That was wonderful. And 20 metres to Valencia. Also, too, during that overmate, your audio did drop out just a couple of times, 10 seconds, then it'd come back. So it might be something you want to have a look at as well. Okay, we are at the bottom at the end of the second round. I actually haven't had dinner yet, and it's getting cold, so we won't go into a third round. I'll just put a call out for anybody else who would like, if there's anyone else who would like to check in quickly. This is Alan, VK2MG.
It looks like I've got an issue with my sound card. I have an issue with my sound card. It's causing the PC to randomly lock up, which is unfortunate. And if I said spider beam, I'm sorry, I meant to say buddy pole. Back to you, mate.
It's just a little bit of difference between those two, mate. Just a little. But yeah, the buddy pole's an interesting thing as well. So I will have to come and have a look at that. Okay, second call. Anybody else wish to join us tonight? Okay, hearing nothing and being very hungry and smelling this takeaway Thai, I'm going to call that a night for tonight. It is now 8:46. This is Alan, VK2MG, on behalf of the Central Coast Amateur Radio Club, formally closing off this week's net and returning the repeater to general use. Thank you all for joining in. It's been fun. Made it. I'm going to get dinner. Thank you for joining us. Good to see you all out there. Bye.